Well, today we're talking terrariums. I'm with Viet. We're out at Cornell Farms. And what is a terrarium?
It's essentially a very tiny, adorable garden.
Yeah, and it's, for indoors, or are they outdoors, or can
They're
you do
usually
both?
kept indoors. Yeah, most people keep them on their desk or by a window, just to have a pop-up life. Maybe you don't have a lot of space for a big plant. This is perfect for that.
Right, and you've kind of picked out all the things that we kind of need for a terrarium. So
Yeah.
when we're looking for terrariums, what kind of things do we need?
Well, the first thing that I would look for are the plants. Make sure that they have very similar care needs, similar water, similar lighting needs, so that you don't have to remember to care for them all differently.
Right.
And you just water them all at once, make sure they're in the same location.
So you can have some for sunny areas or shady areas, and that just depends on the plant material.
Yeah,
that you're
like
picking.
for example, most of the plants that I've picked out today are low to medium light plants. They don't actually love direct sunlight, for example. They can take very bright indirect light.
Okay.
And they all love humidity. So they would love this glass dome here where the water, the moisture can be trapped inside, and they will thrive in this environment.
Okay. So it looks like you have your dome or your glass vessel picked out, and you have different styles or shapes of those that you can use.
Yeah, there are one that are globe shaped like this. There are one that are more like a cylindrical. Some funky ones that are maybe diagonal. But for the most part, what you'll find is more dome shaped like this, or the cylindrical type, because they're just easier to get things in and out.
Okay.
I've seen some pretty fun ones that are melted onto a tree trunk. You can make a terrarium out of that.
Okay. And so, when you're going to plant up a terrarium, after you have your vessel picked out, looks like you started to put some stuff in the bottom of the thing. So what do we have in the bottom?
So what I have started here are just some smaller size garden rocks on the bottom, just for drainage.
Okay.
And then I have some charcoal and moss here for to prevent bacteria from growing inside the soil, because that sometimes can cause an odor. Most of the time it doesn't, but it's always good to have a preventative measure like this.
Okay. And then you mentioned soil. So what kind of soil do we need to?
You can just use any all-purpose gardening soil or potting mix. What we usually use is just an all-purpose the potting soil, because these has all the nutrients that the plants will need for a while.
Okay.
Because they're so small, they don't need a lot of fertilizer or anything like that. And these are all organic, so they will actually feed the soil, and the soil is alive, so to speak.
So now that we have all of our materials picked out, let's get started on how to build a terrarium.
Yes, let's get started. So, like I said, we have garden rock on the bottom here. So next up, I'm gonna start putting the plants in and imagining where I might want them. I can move them around later, but for now, I just want to get an idea of what the final product might look like.
And it looks like you've kind of prepped some of these plants ahead of time.
Yes.
That come in like their little 2-inch or a 4-inch pot. So it looks
Yes.
like you've kind of teased them apart a little bit.
Yes, what you want to do is make sure that the roots are loose and they're spread out, so they know that they're no longer in a confined container. They can spread out and mingle with the other plants. Make sure that the roots are not too deep, otherwise you'll see the root ball kind of rise above the rest. And you want plants with different heights. Like for example, I have a taller one here. I want something that's a bit short over here. And then I want these baby tears plants. They are pretty fast to spread, so they are very good for lower onto the ground. And you can just dot them throughout, like so. And then I have this little pop of color here, just for some visual interest. And also you notice that this color are kind of cornered with this color here, so it's not too uniform. It's not too matchy.
Okay.
You know?
And so it's pretty much up to your own imagination, and as long as you're sticking with the different requirements that the plants need as far as sun and light conditions.
Yeah, you can get as creative as you want to be. A terrarium is your own personal garden, so you can put any plant you want in there as long as they have the same care. Any color that you might like, because plants are not just green, Sometimes they are purple, sometimes they're pink and red. So you don't always need flowers for color. You can always get very pretty foliage plants like this.
Okay, so then once we have our plants kind of placed in there, or where we want them, what's going to be the next step?
So once you have your plants in there, you want to make sure that it has enough soil to survive. So that is when we'll start putting in the potting mix. And I have some in this basket here already. So I'm just gonna use my hand, get in there, make sure that it gets in between the plants. And while I'm doing this, I'm also gonna get some charcoal here and mix it in with the soil, like we talked about earlier, just to prevent bacteria from growing. You don't need a lot to mix in the soil, but you need enough for it to prevent bacteria. And I have this handy dandy tool here that I can just
scoop it in.
Yep, scoop it in and just sprinkle it in like that.
And then once we have all of our charcoal and then our soils, do you put anything over the top of the soil?
I usually do. So that's why I have these pretty crystals like this here. And I pick them out specifically with rocks that are close or similar to the color, or they complement the color of the plants. Like I have these very like earthy, sparkly color looking rocks here that I would put somewhere over here, for example.
And so these are just, used for decoration, just to kind of put the finishing touches on there.
They don't serve any functional purpose for the plants, but they are pretty. And they add some texture and some levels to your garden.
So now that we have it kind of completed the way we like it, what are some basic care tips that we need to know to keep it alive?
Well, the first thing that you need to remember is that you don't want a lot of water pooling on the bottom, because that might encourage algae from growing. And it doesn't harm anything, but it might look a little green. You might not want that. As far as watering goes, I like to just use a spray bottle like this to make sure that everyone gets a decent amount of water and it's directly to where I want the water to be. You can also use a long spout watering can to make sure that you get deep in there so the plants in the back are not neglected. And just make sure you keep it moist but not wet. You don't want to be sitting in water too much.
Okay. And then, out here at Cornell Farm, you guys have these that are already pre-up and done that you can take home with you.
Yes.
Or you have all the components that you can make your own.
We have them on a table, or you can just bring a bunch of plants to us and ask us to make one for you.
So terrariums are a great thing. You can come out to Cornell Farms, you can talk to their knowledgeable staff on how to create your own, or take one home when it's already done up. So it's nice being out here today. I appreciate all the information. So make sure you go to Cornell Farm's website, or you can go to gardentime.tv and we'll click you over. So thanks for having us today.
Thank you for coming.